Okay.
So Raven Nevermore earlier on mentioned a book.
Yeah.
I've heard about this.
Okay, Everything I Want to Do is Illegal. War Stories from the Local Food Front. So, Raven, you were going to let us know what you were finding. I have not heard of this before.
Yeah, so the guy that wrote it, Joel Salatin,
You come a little closer to the mic.
yeah, he's been farming for a long period of time, and each of these chapters kind of goes over one of the war stories. Like one of them is the chicken police showed up because one of the restaurants he gives eggs or sells eggs to had a salmonella issue, and the way that they figured out it was his fault was completely insane, dumb, and stupid. And it turns out that because what is it that goes through and tests the restaurants?
Private cat.
Not the USDA, the other one. The one that goes through and checks the restaurants and makes sure that they're clean
Oh, the
and
health
everything.
inspector?
Yeah, the health inspector came in, and they looked at all this stuff and they said, "Oh, it's from the egg," and so they ended up. USDA ended up having to come in and check out his farm and stuff, and they found there was an issue with the eggs, and so they had him clean it. And then they came back the next day and they just signed off, "Yep, the farm is good." It's like, what was that about? And they said, well, one of the issues is that the USDA and the health department have issues with each other, so they had to appear to do something. But he had done testing on his stuff. There was no salmonella in any of the dirt, manure, chickens, nothing. And I guess the chef had tested all of his stuff, and it turned out to be something else in the food that had happened, because whatever it was like a bunch of the different stuff was like raw and stuff, whatever it was that he made.
Ugh.
But it was because of the health inspector that didn't like the eggs. That's what she pointed at, and so that was what the problem was. And then there was an issue with the cow police because it was reported that he was. So when you go and you butcher beef, in order to have it USDA approved, it has to go through inspection during the process. Mm-hmm. Well, his farm is too small for that. They don't do that. The one time that a friend of his ended up going through a whole bunch of trouble to do it, the place ended up going out of business right after processing all their food. So typically what he does is he basically essentially sells his cows off to a single person or halves or quarters. And so then whenever it goes off to the butcher to actually be cut up, those people own the cow, basically. It's not his cow, it's their cow. And so, but the thing is that whenever it's butchered for an individual like that, then it's not available for resale. And what somebody had reported him for was reselling that beef after it had been butchered. And so they went through this whole process and everything, checked all the cows and stuff, and yeah, they had names on everything, but they still had to do something because they couldn't have the customers paying for the meat after they'd been butchered, because it's not until the cow is butchered until they can find out what the end weight was. So what they ended up doing was they ended up charging $1 per head of cow, or 50 cents if you had a half, or a quarter if you had a quarter. And then they would charge shipping and handling on whatever the meat cost, or whatever the meat weight was. And the funny thing with that was that the amount of taxes that the local government was getting was less, because instead of being based upon the weight of the cow, it was now based on that dollar, a quarter, 50 cents.
Damn, he was getting screwed with that sale. I mean, they go by weight of the cows during like 4-H sales and stuff at the fairs. So this isn't.
Oh well, so on his books, because the government agencies said that they had to pay for it beforehand. So what they did was the the sell of the cow was that $1.50 or a quarter before it went to go get butchered. Then they could weigh it and then say, oh, well, the weight of the meat is now, we're charging shipping and handling on that.
Damn.
So they were still getting their weight price, but the government wasn't getting the taxes off of it anymore because that's the way the government wanted them to do the thing now.
Let me go over that back of the book blurb on here. It says, drawing upon 40 years' experience as an ecological farmer and marketer, Joel Salatin, am I saying that correctly?
I think so.
All right. Explains with humor and passion why Americans do not have the freedom to choose the food they purchase and eat. From child labor regulations to food inspection, bureaucrats provide themselves sole discretion over what food is available in the local marketplace. Their system favors industrial global corporate food systems and discourages community-based food commerce, resulting in homogenized selection, mediocre quality, and exposure to non-organic farming practices. Salatin's expert insight explains why local food is expensive and difficult to find and will illuminate for the reader a deeper understanding of the industrial food complex.
Yeah.
I wonder if does he go into how I think they're in bed with the pharmaceutical companies. It's like, hey, we'll give them subpar food. We'll get them sick. We'll send them to you. You'll send them drugs. They'll come back and go, I feel like crap. I need my comfort food. And the cycle continues.
Yeah, no,
In Minecraft, of course.
he does.
Oh, no,
cover-
I think that's on the store shelves.
Yeah, this was surprisingly written back in 07. I actually thought it was older, but nope, it's 07. But yeah, he goes through different things, and in some cases it's like he complains about the fact that in some cases, like the green people, they see there's an ecology problem or whatever, and so they'll come up with a solution to get the government to pay for a grant or whatever else, and it's like, well, they're solving the wrong problem, but they're not. Because if they actually went around and solved the correct problem, then it would no longer be a problem to solve, and nor could they get government money for it. Because in a lot of cases, he's like, I've already solved that problem. You want to come to my farm and see how I solved it? And they're like, well, if we do it that way, then we don't get any government money.
I want to interrupt here and say, Billy Bob, I am not watching fuzzy porn.
I didn't say
I
fuzzy
am
porn. I said Redoubt's home state concoction porn.
That's one way to refer to it as.
That's yeah. I got confused halfway through that sentence. So
Well, that book
I'll be
actually
back.
sounds
I gotta
really
go pee.
interesting, though.
Sorry about
Ron.
that. I my screen crapped out. I mean, I had to kind of restart the computer a bit.
In Minecraft?
Oh, I wish it was in Minecraft. No, I actually had my computer glitched out on me.
So the original premise of the book was I don't remember what group it was, but there was a group that was getting some of the best farmers and chefs and stuff together to kind of work through the different problems that they were having on their farms and stuff. And this was throughout the world. And I think the meeting was in the UK somewhere. And one of the days they kind of went around and had everybody talking about, what problems are you running into on a daily basis and stuff. And he was trying to come up with a way to succinctly say all the problems that he was running into. And whenever it got around to him, he finally said, everything I want to do is illegal. And of course, everybody just burst out laughing. Some of them thought he wanted to smoke weed or wanted to go hang out with the neighbor's wife or something like that. And once all the laughing was over and done with, he was like, "No, seriously, the neighbor's kids want to work on my farm for some experience. Well, that's illegal because of child labor laws. And then also, if I was to hire him, I would have to pay a minimum wage. I'd have to have so many bathrooms within so many feet of the place that we're working, and just all kinds of different regulations and stuff that would just be impossible for his small farm to actually do in order to be able to just let the neighbor's kids work on the farm. And we've gotten to a point where everything is so overly regulated that you can't just give somebody that has low experience just work for whatever without going through certain hoops and stuff, and it's
Well,
ridiculous.
I think the larger companies who got well established, got a good footing, they would go and then lobby for certain regulations,
Oh yeah,
which at their size they can afford to adhere to those regulations. But even if they don't, well, paying the fine is worth it because they'll profit enough off of just paying the fine. Whereas little independent businesses, they can't tangle with that. So what they're doing is pretty much pulling the ladder up behind them to make sure they don't get competition.
yeah. Well, he's figured small ways around certain things that are legal, like with the cows, having people buy the cow first and then go and process it, because at that point the cow's no longer his; it's theirs.
Well,
Um,
that you can't technically.
And that's why, people focus so much on national elections and stuff. Yes, important, but a lot of folks overlook the importance of being active in your local government, going to the town hall,
Yeah.
knowing what's going on, because that's where the regulations happen that truly affect you. Those are the ones that affect you directly. But you have more direct say in that because you can actually show up and have them see you face to face, not just stare at a TV screen and hear some news guy talk about it.
Well,
Yeah.
but the way the cow and the sheep regulation, like he was talking about, where they buy the cow beforehand, that's how 4-H and FFA have done
The
all
more
their
that happens, the
and have for years.